welcome, Evan.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and appreciate you carving out some time in your day to chat.
Anytime. We're amongst greatness with all of the Triple Crown winners or horses on the wall that we have in here. But
absolutely.
It's good scene setting.
Yes, it is. It's sort of, we do these as behind the scene conversations with owners, founders, people who are leading companies, and it's a personal space where we can listen to you tell your story. For those who are listening, I'm here with Evan Spencer, the president of TRUECOMPS here in Columbus, Ohio, and we have a great session today talking about some of his journey to where he's at today, and I'm going to be looking in at where he's going in the future and getting his perspective on many things.
Do my best to paint this picture as eloquently as I can. But no, seriously, what better place than Columbus? I mean, it's awesome. I've had the chance to grow up here, leave, come back. Now I'm here indefinitely. So, so many folks talk about how it's the consumer test market of America. And quite frankly, I mean, it's just one of the better, if not the best cities between the big thing in New York and the big thing in Illinois. And there's a lot of value in that, I think.
Yeah, it's growing in its interest, and it's becoming a brand and a name unto itself. Not just the attractiveness of living here, but the bright thinking and the talented individuals.
Oh, thank you.
And,
no, I'm kidding.
Good people attract good people.
Sure.
And so, but with that being said, one of my passions is around storytelling and helping others who may think, hey, I know the story. Well, maybe you don't. Yeah. Maybe we don't. And every untold story is an opportunity in my book.
Oh, yeah.
And we live in a world where, there's so much noise in the media and thumb scrolling and the attention span. It's hard sometimes to listen and learn who a person is and what they're really about and what they're trying to do in society with their company and or their nonprofit work. And so this is really meant to be, not a pause, but a slowdown to the dialogue to say, let me learn, let me listen.
Let's dig in. Let's find out a little something. Maybe find a nugget or two.
Yeah.
I'll do my best to find one for you guys. So
walk us through part of your journey to where you are today. What have you been up to? What do you, how did you come to be the president of TRUECOMPS?
Sure. So I avid podcast listener, and I do listen to a lot of others. And I won't name drop, but every time somebody explains how they found their way into venture, how they found their way into entrepreneurship, they start by saying it was some contrarian path forward. I do think mine is pretty close to up there with one of the crazier ones. I am a national champion. Me and my dad are one of the two only father-son captains in Ohio State history. I had the chance in 2002 to be a fan, rush the field. In 2002, I'm referencing when Ohio State beat Miami in the national championship. So, my family has been, or my family's business has been football and still is. Brother is the director of college scouting for the Carolina Panthers.
I remember you telling me that.
So it's pretty neat, and that still holds my heart in so many different ways, right? I love football, and quite frankly, it's made the person that I am today. But to not belabor the point and to get much closer to TRUECOMPS, I had the chance to go win a national championship from being 6-7, and everybody in Columbus, Ohio, God love them, telling us that we were the worst recruiting class that they'd ever seen. And this is the worst season we've seen in 50 years. Why are you here? Right. So I think in a lot of today's conversation, we'll start digging out the fact that we had to say or figure out ways to silence conversations, silence the media, put our phones away at certain times, and really make personal sacrifices for group goals and group progress. To speed up the story, after I retired from playing, quote unquote, air quotes here, retired from playing football, I was able to think really critically about what have I done that's unique in the marketplace, just generally, right? I know I want to be in finance. I worked my way into figuring out that was private finance, private equity, operations, and the sort. But I really had to think about what did I have that was unique to me and unique to me only. I was the spokesperson from a media perspective in my room. Like I said, I told the world that we were going to wipe the floor with Alabama and then got eviscerated by Stephen A. and the boys on ESPN. But all of these lessons start to come to fruition when you realize the fact that you have a platform, right? And in that, I realized that, listen, I can go work for a big shop, and there are many mentors that I'd rather not say names that helped push me through that process. And one of the key realizations was there wasn't going to be much economic capture that I would have given the resources that I was going to start deploying. So that was really my key decision behind moving to Columbus, really start to expand my my network base, quite frankly.
What year was that you?
This would have been 2016 when I got back. And through an initial startup and then some time at a venture capital, I figured out that, listen, I do want to expand my business and my thought process in M&A operations and the sort. Then I had the chance to have a very frank conversation. I feel like all of these happen over beers or something like that. With one of my good buddies, Brett Bowen. He told me, hey, I'm building this financial technology. I'm like, dude, I've known you for like 2 years. There's no way. But he's like, no, it's really neat. We're automating the all-in cost of employees, and it really helps in bargaining. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, let me grab a mentor. We'll dig into this and have a much deeper conversation. And then to cap it at an explanation, I brought in a mentor of mine, and we sat down and we went through an automated system that is designed to calculate every variable of a compensation agreement, both monetary and non-monetary. And then we started conceptualizing, well, where's the application to this, right? Yes, we're using this for bargaining, and it is very much needed in bargaining. Labor needs tools like this. But have we started to think about the other side of the table? Have we started to think about the cost savings from management or any of these large entities that are probably paying 10x, if not more, what the unions are paying for all of these same understandings, and not only for bargaining, but also for budgeting sessions and all of their annual finance and HR conversations. So to keep it light and to keep it where it is, that's really how I got to TRUECOMPS and a brief on what we really do.
And he was a friend.
Yeah.
And he's telling you his idea, and you were listening.
I think one of the key things is, I'm a people person. I don't care what party you're a part of. I don't care what you look like. You could be pink, right? But if you are giving me the shirt off your back, trust and believe I will do the same, if not more. I always treated my friends that way. I mean, I've moved around so much, like you have to figure out ways to not only make friends, but keep them. And I think that's fundamental to how my parents raised me, quite frankly. And then once we got into deeper conversations, Brett didn't even play football with him. He played football with one of my teammates at Ohio State, Zach Bourne. But then there was probably a basis of trust there that helped a lot of things progress as quickly as they did. But fundamentally, it was a level of trust that he had for me and vice versa. And he knew that whatever critical thought we would have in that next conversation when we were doing a demo wasn't going to be, hey, you're dumb or whatever. It was very much going to be productive or, holy cow, we have something that's, I don't want to use nuclear because there's other context to the conversation in the current day and age, but something that could be plutonic. And back to a lot of other things that we'll speak to, it now is about execution. It's now about relationships and social capital and who else can be brought to the fold. And really, we saw everything that we needed in each other, and obviously our other partners too. But it's been exciting.
Tell me a little bit more about that last comment you just made before I want to dig into the social thrust as well of execution and moving forward, and hear where you're at and what's behind that. But you said we had things that complemented each other, and you were listening in. You see viability and potential, obviously, and there's a basis of trust. But you bring a unique background.
Correct.
You bring a journey that very few people go through. The level of dedication, sacrifice that it takes to attain the things that you had. As you're staring at this conversation over coffee or a beer and saying, if I were to participate, what would my role be? How can I add value? How can I help bring leadership? That conversation or that self-dialogue of founder fit. Am I the type of guy to help these founders and be, a CEO, president, leader? what was going on in your head, and how did you form that?
Yeah.
How did your own intuition about yourself that this is a good lane for me?
Well, I mean, at the time when I was having this conversation with him, my thoughts about my capabilities as a leader were pretty cement. I'm not going to say that I am figured everything out, because I'll never be that guy. But I think what is important is to just look back on the past, and not everything revolves around football. I'll just speak to the family business here.
Sure.
But, I referenced the fact that once we went 6-7 as freshmen, we were by millions told that we suck, we can't lead, we can't perform at the highest of levels. So naturally, I had to figure out ways to remove my own performance. I mean, quite frankly, this isn't a leading topic here, but I mean, I caught like 22 balls, I think, my senior year. And, we played 12 games. So you can think about the sacrifice that I had to have. But every practice that I took, right? My pads did the talking. That's a very specific conversation me and my dad had early on. And my practice efforts, my ability to make all of my academic initiatives. Heck, I graduated early in 3.5 years, right? So it was more about me showing everybody else around me what we needed to do as groups of men, women, and whomever, that this is how leadership can happen in this very specific group. Then we had a really specific opportunity where we won in our conference championship. We got the chance to play the best team with the best program. I had the chance to lead out there on the field and throwing a touchdown pass and making a game-sealing block and all of these things, right? But notice that at least in the back half of that statement, I didn't say the game-leading rush. I didn't. While my pass was important, it was only to continue to set the momentum.
Sure.
So to get back to your question on how I felt I was ready to be a founder in that moment, I think it was because not only had I studied so much about what my understanding of economics and entrepreneurship was and how it could apply, I knew that fundamentally when everything gets to a point to where your back's against the wall, I knew how to fight my way out of that with a group of people in mind. That was really important. And luckily enough, Brett, who's at the other end of this conversation, my leadership was very much seen in the eyes of millions, tens of millions, quite frankly. I mean, when we get a chance to beat Alabama, it was not a thing that was under televised, we'll say. And because of that, I think he very much understood that let's validate the fact that relationships are there, resources are there, cognition is there, all of which I was able to do through the months afterwards. I mean, everybody's got to go through some version of founder agreement. Let's prove it of sorts.
Yeah.
But that's really what I was leaning on in that conversation.
Yeah. That's in those fires. That's where the person is made.
That's where it is, man. I mean, and again, it doesn't have to be football, right? You could be the leader of your debate team, right? And, we always use these weird references like dog ate your homework or your shoe leg braces. But like, imagine the fact that you couldn't make it for one thing because of some family reason, right? You should have already been doing everything possible to set the standard for everybody else who was going to go in and take the lead on the debate. Or if it's swimming, right? And your top swimmer in the relay, snaps his bathing suit or her bathing suit's got to go inside. If you're not doing the things to motivate the other people in ways to get the best out of them already, you've already lost.
Yeah.
Right. And those are some things that just work so well and we're on the biggest stage possible and visible to so many different people through what I did. And obviously through showing value in the months then after that conversation, we were able to get everything inked and go from there.
Yeah. So those leadership traits of motivation and the ability to inspire others to become better than they are simply by being around someone who brings that out in them. And it goes hand in hand with the ability to make friends and keep friends. Everyone loves someone who, at the end of your time with that person, you feel that you're bigger than you were when you started that day.
Exactly.
Who taught you that?
Man.
Or who did you catch that from?
No, I mean, it's a great question. It really is. I do have to be a slight bit of that guy that says, oh, I love my mom and my dad. But I mean, seriously, like my mom instilled such an important characteristic in me from a young age. And granted, my mom, and for reference, was general counsel for Fortune 72 for many years past 15, right? And worked in a high level legal role in every other company that she was in there before. She didn't get there because there were bridges burnt. She didn't get there in a corporate setting because it was her way or the highway. She understood that keeping and maintaining relationships was the utmost importance for whatever had to happen in business. And obviously it applies in life as well. So I think that her as my ongoing mentor and confidant, quite frankly, when I think that I'm screwing up or I think I'm not doing the right things, is critically important, because I do have a foundation, and that foundation is based on treating other people well. I mean, and even in some cases, it's bit me in the butt when they may not be deserving, right? But the moment when that person who even may not be deserving realizes that somebody like myself is still going above and beyond because there is a group initiative tied to their progress or our communal progress or performance forward,
collective good,
that almost grows a stronger relationship, because I'm willing to put all of the other BS that we may be interfacing with aside and say, listen, it doesn't matter how you really feel about me. I'm going to do everything that I can for you. But in the back end of this, it's all because we have to go over there, right? And if we can't have this conversation, then we're darn sure not going to be able to get there.
Yeah.
And mom, dad, Coach Meyer, Coach Lovey Smith, some of these other folks that I've had around me in life have really shown me the importance of that.
Yeah. It makes it last. It sticks with you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's no other way, right? I mean, it's, I'm surrounded by a lot of impactful people that have done things differently.
As you now look ahead, the topic of partnerships, whether it's investors who support you with financial capital or their social capital, or tech partnerships with those that are key to building out this platform that you're building, or the employee partnership of building a team. Yeah. That same perspective that we're talking about, what are you looking for in partnerships as you go forward?
Well, I mean, I think that most important, and it may be because it's just happening at this current moment, but team building, right? I think is something that I think is really important to hone in on, right? Partnerships need to start from a basis of trust. Individuals need to have some basis of integrity, right? And figuring out that there are certain ways to treat other individuals, right? And, again, our platform is something that automates or calculates the all-in cost of an employee, right? So fundamentally, our job is to help people, is to give tools for folks who don't have the ability to get more money or get more days off or understand the value in pushing for some kind of initiative. So, I think that in partnerships, you have to be willing to take the shirt off your back in order to think through, well, yeah, sure, I have to go through 20 hours of coding over the next 2 days, right? But my end goal is to still get to a place where we can help more people, right? So for me, it's really important for any kind of employment partnership to understand that hopefully you are trying to help society in some kind of way with what you do, right? I think that's really important just as a fundamental basis, but I mean, in employment as well, given what we are trying to go out and accomplish, that's key. And then from an investor's perspective, partnerships are important because there's collective sacrifice, right? Both individuals need to understand that there has to be a give and take in certain instances. We, in the sense that we have to give parts of the company, and in their instance, these are my dollars, right? How can we build some basis of trust? So I think in terms, I think in numerical values in terms of what percentages are given up, ways to show that, hey, if we perform this kind of way, maybe we could get these type of percentage clawbacks or any kind of mechanism that showcases the fact that we are so passionate about this. But not only that, we're willing to bet on ourselves. Yeah. Right. So in investor partnerships, I just think it's really important to be trustful, and then understand that both parties are going to have to sacrifice at some point, because collectively, we want to ride the wave together, right?
Yeah.
And we only get there really one way,
together,
the healthiest, and that is together.
Yeah, if there's a split over some small aspect of the
correct,
it doesn't benefit them or you. Like if
the relationship sours over one term of the first seed investment, is that going to be the person that fights for you on the board when it's Series A, B, C, and onwards, or private equity comes in for whatever reason and at a much later stage? You really got to think about why things are important to people and then try to figure out ways to get those initiatives built in or accomplished because they're telling it to you for a reason. And also, quite frankly, if it's an investor, they're at the table for a reason too. And it's because they believe in you. They just want to be able to see that you are able to understand where they are coming from. And then hopefully through productive and fair negotiations, find ways to get to the middle and then progress and go to the moon, because that's the ultimate goal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Tell me, let me shift the conversation a little bit. I want to learn more about the product.
Yeah.
What it offers to the market. There's a social component to it in our conversations together, which I really like. It gets to the why. Like, why does this product need to go to market? Why does the world need it? And talk to me a little bit about what it's solving and where the gap is out there in the marketplace.
Yeah, I can do that. Well, ultimately, the problem is centered around the fact that there is no way in the moment to have a tool that can calculate proposal fluctuations on compensation, because there is salary, right? But there's vacation, right? There's personal time, there's uniform allowance, and I could go all the way down the 30 plus some odd list. And each one of those variables has a monetary tag. So if I'm bargaining at the table, or if I'm on the other side, if I'm confirming a budget, hey, we can afford this, we can't afford that, it's a huge opportunity cost on staff to do this information. And we're talking 8, 12, 24 months to find out just a few proposal fluctuations versus having
in the back and forth.
And then if it's a budgeting, having 10, 20, 30 people in your finance department, all crunching numbers, all pen and paper, trying to figure out if we do this, the specific variable weights this way, and it's supposed to, change 5 other things in our comp agreement, and understanding the accurate number in all of that situation is a very complex calculation. When you can lean on automation and you can lean on an algorithm that has all of those rules baked in, it's a really powerful situation, because we can do 10,000 calculations in a tenth of a second, right? And if I can give you my app and you can build 15 proposals on the spot while at the table, if you're bargaining, or if it's finance and you're going through some kind of review, and you can see, all right, well, this is a 10% increase, a 15% increase, a 20% decrease in our production over the next year, month, 3 years. That's wildly valuable, because if you're management, you're paying millions of dollars in employment salaries for those individuals to take pen and paper and go figure out that information themselves. And then if it's collective bargaining, you're paying your attorney, you're paying your consultant, your economist to go take many months to come back and return one proposal, i.e., what's it cost us to do 1 change here, 2 changes here, and 3 changes here.
Yeah.
So for us, being able to deliver a tool that does that immediately is the closest thing to us producing a math exam. And there's 2 people that have to do the math exam. One has a TI-89 calculator, and one has my Bandon Dunes pen, right? Who do you think is going to finish the test first?
Yeah.
Who do you think is also going to be more accurate in their responses, right? But if we're talking about employment and compensation, i.e., how much money I have to go buy groceries, to go pay these inordinate gas prices, it matters. It really does. And now, from my why to this company, it's very technical but simplistic once you get into the weeds of it. But my why, I'm an economist, right? So again, I econ degree from Ohio State, but I look at things from the perspective of the income inequality gap. Well, there are a lot of layers in that, right? The fact that management started to get stock options in the late 70s and early 80s, and then there was a gross disproportionate compensation gap in the folks that it required those individuals to make their stock options, and then the labor getting the fair enough compensation for themselves and making sure that the machine starts running the right way. But the fact of the matter is, they still bargain every 3 years, right? But once I get into that bargaining session, it's so hard to fight for fair compensation because you're just trying to do the math.
Yeah.
And then the other side still wants to win of sorts and not overpay of sorts, right? So they'll keep moving the chess piece until your budget gets thin enough to where you'll just take whatever proposal you have because you can't pay the attorneys anymore. The economists are asking too much for the third proposal or the fourth proposal, right? So for us, being able to have a fractional price on what everybody would charge in that environment, and they can run an unlimited amount of proposals and an unlimited amount of budget confirmations, it saves so much money. It puts more money in labor's pocket because now they have a tool to bargain for more fair compensation. And then, quite frankly, it is unbiased, right? Because again, if we use the mathematic example where two people are taking a test and I have a TI-89 calculator in one person's hand, 8 times 8 is still going to be 64, and that's not going to be bias, right? And in our system, that's how we can serve both parties in that environment. And it's really neat because, quite frankly, we see, and I see as an economist, this being one of many, but a very important tool to help shrink that gap a little bit more, or at least to allow labor to catch up in a more fair way. And I'm really excited to partner with the folks that we have and build a team to go really launch this to market.
Yeah. Evan, I love the social aspect of knowledge is power.
Yep.
It is in every channel of information, whether it's the news media democratizing, accurate access to what's factually really happening versus a controlled media state. It happens in corporations where they have internal public or captive agreements, or if you think of like insurance, who have independent agency as their distribution model, or a quick serve industry like the McDonald's or the Wendy's of the world, where you get into franchise, where does corporate share information with franchises? Does corporate insurance share information with their independent agents? What would life look like if both sides knew some of the key elements of what makes this arrangement work? And that's what I hear you saying, is that in the bargaining space, in the union to corporate, the two sides, what would the world look like if the information was democratized through a software platform that allows transparency of what it means to ask for something and to give it?
There's a term that's called interest-based bargaining. It's used in the sense of let's basically do this bargaining cards face up, right? But in practice at the moment, there is no tool that enables interest-based bargaining. It's just some, relatively speaking, something to say, here are my numbers, here are your numbers. Let's try to find what's fairest. In a theoretical down the road example, TRUECOMPS can sit in the middle of both parties and define what's most fair. Now, we obviously can have our clients and prepare information behind closed doors or in the moment, because you can obviously have your phone or your laptop there. But democratizing this information is 100% the shortfall in why, in my opinion, the gap is so huge from an income equality perspective. It's because I can harbor the fact that you don't really know that I can pay for that. And in my doing so, I get to save a few more dollars and then look a little bit better when Tom Keen's interviewing me on Bloomberg, right? Because we've made that much more money in this quarter. Our system fits very well in the sense that it's not a thing that will be taking from the corporations, right? So let's imagine it is just only used on the corporate side of things, right? Well, if I know what my all-in costs are better, now I can tell the other side that, listen, we can't give you guys anything in salary. But guess what? This is a bargaining session, and I know that you need to be comped in every other area but the numerical value of salary. There is no on-the-spot way to start kicking out proposals for those individuals. Hey, here's 20 more days. Here's 5 more days of personal time. Here's everything else down the road. There's no other system that can allow them to certify that right then and there. So then they're saying, listen, my nuts covered, relatively speaking, but I also made sure that the other side realized that they were still going to get something. Now, if I give them more personal time, yes, that is going to increase my all-in budget. But if I know exactly by how much, right, I can still very much look great as I need to my stakeholders or to the, financial media or what have you. And then on the other side of the token, when I am a union, right, who has talked with FOP, has talked with AFSCME, has talked with OCSEA and understood that, listen, we have a shortfall in our comp package. Everybody else who looks like us makes 6% more just in a market adjustment. And then we can start talking about what's fair from a percentage increase from there. There's no other way to define those comps and get your market adjustment and then get a 222 on top of that. Yeah. And we're talking about 2% this year, 2% the next year, 2% the following year. That could just be seen from a management perspective as, oh, you're asking for 8% all in every year. That's impossible. We can't do that. But if I can objectively show you that that's the market rate just to get us to where we are now, CPI, inflation, general costs of things, we could bake in all of that into our system, but then also give a very objective reason as to why a bargaining unit should be getting whatever they deem as fair. And again, it just goes back to the fact that that calculator is not biased. It's just showing you the right answer.
Sure. And it can address things that are potentially not pegged to an individual employee, like their costs as part of the bargaining, but they might fall in the category of workplace safety or suitability of if you want us, thousands of us to continue working in these, and we want this about our environment to change. There's a fixed cost to changing that.
Yes, there is. It really is. And I keep going back to like vacation or personal time because they aren't, in some cases, obviously they're going to get comp time, right? When they're off work getting compensation, but what they're not receiving a check in those other environments, but that still has an effect on the entity that has to plan for how much vacation time I'm going to give those.
Yeah, I'm thinking very practically, public city schools, the need for air conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
The need for
that was actually the basis of one strike that was in there, right? So now in that one, we're going to say much more of there's a portion of the bargaining that is management rights and bargaining rights. Hey, we need to have a healthy and safe workplace, right? So you guys need to cover the cost of improving HVAC. And we just had a recent strike here in Ohio that was related to that with teachers. And that should be, relatively speaking, in air quotes here, the part of the market adjustment, right? Because I have to operate in a safe environment. But in the same token, let's just say, teacher union A is very similar to AFSCME Union B for whatever reason. You could put both of those parties in your compensation profile, and then you could understand, hey, this is what we should be getting in a market adjustment for all of these characteristic reasons. Oh, I see. And because of that, now I can get my adjustment on all of my 30 plus items of monetary and non-monetary benefits and compensation, on top of the fact that I need to be operating safely. And that's more, there is some subjective conversation to bargaining always, but there also is the numerical value. And that quantitative value is much more where we hang our hat on.
Okay. Very good.
But I'm happy to be a consultant for any of those folks who need somebody to be persuasive and get their HVAC in the same right.
Sure. I follow you. Tell us, anyone listening, help us understand where you're at in the life cycle of the company. You have a product today. It's functioning. Is it being piloted, used? Where's it at today? And with the funding that you have or that you're seeking, what does the next year look like for you from a growth perspective?
Our company right now is amazing in the sense that we were able to build our product without having to fundraise to go do it. Speaks to the social capital end of things, not even on my end, some of my other co-founders, right? Understanding that not only getting the best out of other individuals, treating people well, keeping them closely held to their own selves, we were able to find another family member who had all of the skill sets that we needed to build our weighting into an algorithm. And then once that algorithm was built, now we have an application. Now the application isn't perfect. It's going to get prettier. It's going to change.
Sure.
But one of the next biggest hurdles, we'll say, is to get application onto our remote servers, and then do that in a multi-tenant environment where everybody has their own privatized data set. So that's really what the next year is going to look like, is scaling that CIDC process, building the team out with folks who have been able to do that for billion-dollar companies, quite frankly, to speak to one of the person's references. So that's tactically what will be happening over the next year. We have paying clients. We are actively demoing with a layer of unions and a layer of corporations here in the state of Ohio, and beyond the state as well. So that's been really neat, right? Because we haven't had to wait to build, to start putting in front of people to say, hey, your baby's ugly, you got to fix this. You know what I mean? We've had that moment. And quite frankly, we haven't had many ugly baby conversations. So it's been fun in that, right? But then on the investor side, we are in the final inning of all of our negotiations that started in the middle of July now for our initial seed round. So it's amazing. And again, you speak so much to social capital and how things happen, you know, treating people the right way. You know, on my end, having just joined a club, doing right by introductions and personal relationships. And then ipso facto, hey, actually, I've seen you out here a couple times at odd hours, and only entrepreneurs are really out here at this time. Tell me more about what you do. And then you are able to, on the spot, have what you have spent your whole life building from a characteristic and abilities perspective. All of those things started to come into fruition when I met our investor, and then come to find out it was a conglomerate. We went and played golf then afterwards. And he says, what happens if I took down your whole round? And I was like, oh my God, my knees are buckling, but the rest of this golf round is for naught. I'm just going to talk to you and make sure that you understand that we're ready for it. So, you know, sometimes things can happen so quickly and just so out of left field, but when you're super passionate about a project.
I have to interject. I have a hard time seeing your knees buckle on the golf course. I've seen what happens to that max fly ball.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yes. We'll talk about this max fly reference at another instant. You know, maybe we need to discuss the partnership down the road. No, I'm kidding. So now golf is kind of where I put my competitive energy. So to your point, yes, I was 1 over through 6, I believe. And then he said that, and of course I go like double the next 3 holes. Like, just didn't care at all. But yeah, that's my my closest explanation to my knees buckling, I guess, I got for you.
Life is like that. It's half luck, half just being in places and taking,
it really is,
the time to speak with people
and
on both sides, that he would extend himself to you and say, tell me about you.
Right.
Like something as simple as that. We forget that, like, that's the beginning of every new relationship.
Absolutely is. Being willing to be vulnerable in sense. Hey, I want to know more about you. Right. Yeah. I've seen you here at similar times, and quite frankly, he and I have had the chance to relate so much because he sees a lot of himself in me, right? But to your point, luck is such a big important thing, and I am a firm believer that you also, in conjunction with that, make your own luck too. Because in the very same right, again, my 2 partners were the inventors, the light bulb moment. Hey, we are labor negotiators. We're the presidents of our unions. So we've been getting bent over the barrel, and now it's time for us to go build something to stick it to them. When I came in, it was much more, I already not only understand the market capability and the potential and the relationships that I possess to get us there. There are scripts to understand. There is delivery and how to, all of us in entrepreneurship want to be able to say our thing in the most technical way. But quite frankly, when you're in conversations like this, it's got to be the most simplistic description of how you are helping individuals. That takes time, right? And you have to commit yourself to that time. Yeah. And I think that in this moment, I was lucky in the sense that this not only wasn't an individual investor from an angel perspective, and he was ready to join a project like this, but I was also ready to present a project like this at the right time and the right moment. And, now we're looking up in the final inning, really excited to get it rolling.
Yeah. You guys had done your homework and prepped. And when the moment came, you saw it. As a closing question and kind of wrap things up here, is you look out a year, 3 years, 5 years, what does success for TRUECOMPS look like as you and your founding team talk about vision and who you want to become?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really is.
And I know the further you look out, the foggier the view becomes. So whatever time horizon is cleared.
I am one that practices game theory quite a lot. So I'd say my fog isn't as thick as some others, like this morning here in Columbus, Ohio was. But no, in a more specific note, in the next year to 2 years, I very much do see us working our way to a small number of Fortune 500 clients. Because again, we price in a way that's population based, and obviously there's setup fees and seat fees and everything else.
Sure.
Right. But effectively, if you were to go find some consultant, some other entity to try to go, or attorney, quite frankly, to try to go do this math for you, we understand what that cost structure is, and we can set a flat rate. And from that, we can be able to save them millions, billions of dollars in aggregate. So I really do see us working our way to the Fortune 500 over the next 2 years. Past that, I think it's probably most accurate to speak to our team. I do see our team going from 7 now over the next 5 to 10 years to being well past the 30 range, well past the 50 range. And a lot of those will be sales folks, because we're starting regional. While we're focusing a lot of our efforts here in Ohio and with a lot of unions here in Ohio, we have a lot of passions for that, obviously. We want to practice some other studies that we've seen out there, right? For the Walmart example, right? Yeah. They started in one area, they had a very specific business model, but then they went just as far as their cars would let them go in a day. And then they figured out the best place and dropped the Walmart there. And they didn't go all the way out to San Francisco, starting from Arkansas in month 1 or year 2 or something like that. Yeah. They really found a way to sustainably grow. So when I reference 30 individuals, 50 individuals, most of them being sales folks and obviously developers to back into a lot of the work that needs done, I see it from the perspective of we are going to dominate our areas. And then obviously we'll take inbound requests. Our algorithm is written in a way to be in 180 different languages. Right. So you can obviously see the long-term aspect of where this can go. If I'm working with somebody that looks like an Exxon Mobil, sure, they employ X number of employees here in the United States, but they also have these same needs in all of their other presences. Right. Yeah. So I think that's the clearest direction to see where we're going. Currently, there is no other entity that is able to automate all of the variables that we do in the speed that we do. So we very much look forward to taking advantage of that.
Well, I look forward to watching from the sidelines your story.
Oh yeah, trust me. We'll have you on the right side of the sidelines. Don't worry.
The winning side.
Yeah, darn right. Darn right.
Thank you so much for coming in. That if I didn't realize you like or read game theory as much, maybe our next conversation will. Euladay Yazar was the Wu professor who taught game theory. She's still there, I believe. Wow. We could have her join us.
Coffee session and brainstorm some things out.
Yeah, it would be fun.
That would be really fun. So, I would look forward to it.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Anytime, man.